All right. Contemplating the utility of a monetary system. So, if you were to create a community that didn't have any monies, it would be the only way that community would survive would be through donated time to tasks that help the community get its needed resources, food, and living conditions. And then the rest is entertainment or leisure time. So, the introduction of an exchange system is to represent the volunteered time towards the benefit of the community. And so, where does this go wrong from modern day society to the idea? And I think it sort of goes to the basis of technology. So as wherein one person without the magic technology can make one widget a day, and another person with the magic technology can make 100 widgets a day, and that one person could not survive off the amount for that widget, then the person could charge for the 100 or for per of 100 widgets. So like in essence, if the widget is usually worth a day's wage, now this individual either sells them for a day's wage and makes 100 days in one day, or lowers the price because he can make more of them. And now everybody buys their widgets from him, meaning the other guy wouldn't be able to, or would have to live on way less. And so I think this is where the distribution element comes into play, where you would think that, okay, we now have, this one guy has discovered a technology to create 100 widgets, and this person could now, if he wants to be involved, or they need more widgets, the one individual could give the technology to the other person, or hire them, and they can manage the technology to make both 100 widgets or 200 widgets. So society, or the general populace, or the community could benefit from everyone having the widget without an extreme cost, or meeting the need so that everybody gets the widget right away. But that's not what happens, because there's a disconnect of communication, or there's a belief that one is more entitled to something than the other, or the thought that I could help someone else doesn't even go through their mind, or the person there's just a complete lack of communication, I guess. And so it's starting with this basics example of meeting the needs of society. And this, I guess, doesn't tap into the evolving, because when a new magic power comes along, then everybody, if they learn about it, then, oh, they need to have that, apparently, because they're not satisfied unless they have everything. So, or at least it seems that way. And the reason I started thinking about this is because you work a long time in a career, like for me, building homes from around when I was 18 to a few years, and then just some construction for a while. But working in construction, and you really see how, unless you manipulate and take advantage, learn all the assets you can leverage in your industry, the people that are already dominating the industry are not going to just, make you an equal or inform you and bring you up to their level if it's not necessary. And even still, even if they do, then they could have you doing the exact same thing they're doing, but they're going to take the majority of the financial benefit because of their perceived entitlement. And they justify this by saying that, well, I lived a hard life, or I had to learn the hard way of growing up, or, so they justify punishing their offspring or the youth of the general population of society because they're entitled to their term to benefit. So this is where I really think you see the poverty mentality projected on. And you don't see the leaders of the world and designing systems to basically monitor and create the best garden for things to grow in, for their offspring to thrive in, to leverage, to give the tools to leverage them to be the best that they can be. And I don't know why people have not noticed this or seen this fault before, or why they're not broadcasting that this could potentially be a goal of humanity, of society, of the government, governing agencies, which are supposed to be the leaders, which we all know a human cannot see everywhere and monitor everything, but we can build systems to help us monitor. And I'm almost daft at how there could be amazing polling systems and analytic systems with public data of how society is going, instead of just bringing it down to a dollar amount like they are doing with the GDP, which does not really represent anything other than money. It's really lost its connection to what's happening in society. And I'm not, uh, I don't even do the stocks, but I just hear little bits here and there, and everything's inflated, and nothing's really the right value, and blah blah blah, and it's instead of about building a system that's meant to support the users, it's building a system that gives certain individuals mass amounts of power and wealth to distribute among their group, um, without the big picture in mind. So it's like we're running a world with small-minded individuals that don't have a big picture in mind. And you see only a few individuals that actually have a big picture in mind. And and it's like they they give up on the masses and just focus on um, their sort of vision of the future. And I think we know that information, knowledge, understanding, analytical ability, the ability to teach and show and distribute information to a large amount of individuals is at the hands of society. We literally could have a stream, and we do have a stream where you pick people, and any number amount of people could look at that individual stream of information coming out. So there's no reason why we couldn't have, and this is a sublet of stream of information, of the stream of existence of being in the present moment, because we're all connected into this existence, that moment. We are already all connected. Otherwise, if you weren't connected, you couldn't observe the external world. You couldn't go to a place and see a person because you're not, apparently, there's a disconnect, but you can. So anything that does exist and you can go observe, you are connected to, even without seeing it. In that same context, we can now create streams where we could all see the necessity information, and create systems to observe that necessity information to better every living and non-living creature's state of existence. It just makes me think of scripture where it talks about that every pot, cooking utensil, or home item, or everything will be like stamped or marked as holy, and holy to me means united as one, and basically seen or aware of. And I think that's where we're potentially going theoretically, is from the theoretical concept that we know we're all connected in order to perceive the external world as being. So there is that connection exists. But if someone's on the other side of the world, they're there, but you can't readily access that connection. Or you you can't. Some people can, apparently, but that's different types of meditations and stuff like that. But um, in the actual context of creating a registered awareness of that self to the totality of self, I think so. We're going from that being to the broad aspect back to most likely machine. I would say man-made machine, but I know that man is the expansion of God's consciousness, and every aspect of the external world and the internal world are God's consciousness, basically the measure of self expanding. And so we're going to make the external representation of what we already know in the internal, or well, it is a fact in the internal. The only reason that anyone could see a conversation or put their foot on the ground, just that being. So, like, to not only make these systems and use the analytical data and use it to, I think it right away just pops. It's how you see these computer programs where they make like a shape try to do something, and they have it do it randomly, doing its own thing. Just give it parameters and it figures out how to do something, and it does it over thousands of times until it figures out its sort of best interpretation of to do the task that it's needed. And basically they have it for design programs, design shapes, structural integrity. You can give it certain programs, you can give it, and it'll use the computer to create the best strength with the least amount of material and that kind of stuff. So you can basically use the compute power and focus of man-made devices or God-made devices to create an external representation that's aware of all the external and filtering that data and helping the external data be the best that it can be. And with the mirroring aspect, this already does actually exist and happen, but it's basically for humanity, it's on the internal, and it's not on the external yet. It's just watching the state of society and the world and knowing that we all could do so much better and probably try less if we just focused our intent on an actual cause. So I think it's not actually the asset of financial monies or currencies used to say your contribution, but I think that in the future, if there actually is still a monetary system for your choice, every individual would get the exact same amount every day of their life from when they're born. and then society supports them 100% to be the best that that individual can attain through analytical data and watching the individual grow and learn and interest, and then the freedom of choice through that a lot. So basically every need would be taken care of, and then the choice is basically like what you now have this to get the to invest in your extra, what you choose to be, and then the great thing would be that the individuals could see all the data. So it's like if there is, you could analyze the need and analyze the situation and see a greater picture of society and culture and how people are relating. And I would assume that the freedom of expression will be way greater, and most likely there would almost be like hubs of groups all over the world that were just super into certain aspects. Like I'm sure there was groups next to the oceans or whatever. They'd be super into um, the ocean life and all that kind of stuff. And there are people in mountains, they're into the mountain life and whatever happens at the different altitudes and stuff, and deep sea life. And that'd be basically the person would gain some kind of interest and then sort of end up focusing into the group that almost best fulfills the potential growth. And then maybe there's like of course there's almost like exchange where they go to see other parts, and so they can bring those ideas back, or you know video, they can look at what's happening. And it's just like the idea that we're working for one individual's gain um, in anything we do just gets basically snubbed out from the beginning of when you're born. And then you know that every task and everything you do, you're doing for the totality of existence. Like you are part of the leading edge of expansion of self, and um, to basically, you know, hinder a willing helping hand with a different perspective than you, to be its best and to contribute through discouragement and like basically putting them down and not lifting them up is, it's part of our growth, but it's just seems so unnecessary. It feels it's necessary. Everything's necessary to lead you to the proper viewpoint, but it just seems so. I don't know. Did my battery die? Yeah. Anyways, I think I'll end my rambling there, but well, this is some food for thought. Anyways, beloved you are, blessed you are. Thank you. My mantra: I am everlasting abundance, unity and connection, perfection. 1111 the mirror. I love God. Beloved you are, blessed you are. Thank you. Namaste.